I'm host Eric. I was talking to fake people. And I would like to title this episode, The Rise and Fall of Metasoap. So, Metasoap started coming around back in March or something. And she was quite encouraging to me. When I think it was her, I could be confusing her with somebody else, but I'm pretty sure it was her. I remember a comment saying, you always thank people for watching and for their attention as though you deserve no credit for garnering it. Something like that. It was a nice comment, you know. And I said, well, to be honest, I, number one, still can't really believe that this is happening. And number two, desperately don't want to fuck it up. And she said, it's too late for that now. You're past worrying about that. Like, there's no stopping it now, kind of thing. And it was a comment that made quite an impact on me. I felt like, that's encouraging. Those kind of encouragements at the right time, when someone's in the right mood, can make a big difference in their life. I'm no exception. Now, I think at that moment, I didn't need that encouragement as much as I perhaps had, months before or something. But I needed it more than I need it now, for sure. And I appreciated it. And it helped me. But she was, beyond doing that, contributing, from what I could tell, a lot of watch time to the channel. Because she was commenting on all sorts of things. She watched, I don't know how many countless hours of videos, which is fantastic. From my perspective, I love it. And, I hope that she was enjoying it as well. Chapter 2. She calls me. Nighttime. I say, great, hey, how you doing? Let's record. She's from Australia. And she says, no, I don't want to record. I says, well, it's just audio. I don't even have you don't even have you're calling me on the phone. She's calling me on the phone. She's not, there's no camera to be turned on, so to speak. And she's quite insistent that we not record. So fine. I say, okay, well, I normally like to, kill two birds with one stone. But whatever, tonight I guess I can just chat with you on the phone, it's fine. I believe that's the beginning of my bird holocaust theme that I reference periodically, was that phone call where I first positioned things in the kill birds with two stone aphorism, and where I began to think of it more in those terms. That night was not a matter of me just choosing to chat with Metasoap all night. That was a matter of me choosing to sacrifice lasting work in order to chat with Metasoap all night. I don't think she really understood that component of things at all, because we did talk for a couple hours, and then she called me back, and I think we talked for about an hour more. And then She hung up, and I started making a video about our conversations, which I hadn't recorded as per her instructions. And during that video, she called again, and I picked up again, and part of that video I recorded has her voice on it, but I went ahead and published it anyway. I just was like, well, whatever. I mean, I was super tired at the end of that thing. It was like, 5 in the morning. I wasn't even thinking about that shit when I published it. It was just, okay, that video is done. It did have some Metasoap at the end of it, but it wasn't a matter of concern to me. Maybe, 5 minutes of it or something. I don't know. After hours of conversation that wasn't recorded, it seemed a minor quibble that worked. Following day, she calls me again, this time in the car. I'm driving around with Delilah. We're going to go through McDonald's, get some lunch. And she is furious. Livid. Well, why? Because there was a piece of her voice on that audio. Take it down right now. I said, well, okay, I'll take it down when I get home. As soon as I get home, that's fine. I have no problem taking it down. There was a sense from me that really she needs to be asking me to take it down, not telling me to take it down. But in that instance, because she had expressly said don't record me, and because I had agreed before the beginning of the first phone call, I had no reason to think that had changed at the third phone call. I just didn't take it quite as seriously as she wanted me to. So fine, of course I'll take it down. Not that I would ever object anyway. I don't want, even if I could assert a legitimate right to not take it down, and not in this instance because she had a contractual right to have me take it down because that's what I had agreed to. But I had agreed to not record it. So, but even if she didn't have that, I would still take it down. I have no interest in putting up videos that people don't want of themselves up on the internet. If somebody doesn't like a video that includes them, they may ask me to take it down, and I will take it down every time. That's it. No questions asked. You don't have to have any legal position beyond the fact that you're in the video and don't want it up there. Unless perhaps if you were you're in a split second of it, you're in a teeny little bit of it accidentally, or whatever. You're in a teeny little bit of it and a number of other people are in it, then that's a different matter. In fact, if there's a number of people in it and one of them doesn't like it, that's a different matter. They all have to agree, besides me, to take it down. My opinion doesn't matter, but anybody else's does. So, if there are 4 people in a room and one of them wants me to take it down after the fact, I'd have to have all the other parties agree to that. And even then, it would somewhat depend on their type of agreement. If they said, I'm okay with that, I'm not thrilled with it, but I'm okay with it. And then a couple of the others said something similar. Well, okay. Now, what they've told me has made my decision to take it down an acceptable one, potentially. But my moral calculus is different than theirs. It's different than the other guys, right? Regardless of all of that complicated talk. I took it down when I got home from lunch, as I said I would, right away when I got home. And even after that, though, she called me at home and started trying to, bust my chops about this some more. And so I conceded the points where she was right, and then I said, but here are my points, and 1, 2, 3. And I said, okay, now can you respond to my points? I responded to all her points. I conceded where she was right. I redefined a little bit where she was close, and then I said no when she was wrong, like one should, right? And then I said, now here are my points. And I said, well, what's your response to my points now? Because, that's fair how that happens. She said her own points again. She just repeated her points. So I said, yeah, I know, I've responded to all of those already. Now, what's your response to my points? Again, she repeated the same points. 3 times? 4 times. That's the first conversation. I hung up on her at the end of that first conversation. And I didn't pick up the phone for her again. I haven't picked it up for her since. That's not necessarily intentional. I would have picked up the phone for her had I been around when it rang on a couple of occasions, probably. But I didn't on purpose for a couple of days. And the reason is because that made me think that her opinion didn't matter and that her position wasn't real. If she's not willing to parse it out, it's not real. I have no reason to respect it. Parsing it out means answering the challenges it faces. If you can't answer those challenges, you have no reason to be sitting there yelling at me, right? So, fast forward. Metasoap continues commenting on Talking with Famous People for a lot. I mean, he put tons and tons of comments up there. And then as we began doing the GTM sessions, she began joining in. At a certain point, there became a serious division in our understanding of things over the word wrong and the issue of right and wrong, okay? And how people could be wrong or they could be right and it not necessarily have a moral component. But beyond that, this whole issue of relativism has been one that we've battled over quite a bit. She continues to try to evoke skeptical arguments, which were like, well, you never really know. It's all subjective, moral skepticism, that kind of stuff. But those arguments all collapse under their own weight. And statements aren't true or false, right or wrong. Then why should we listen to you and your statements about moral skepticism? They are subject to the same skepticism. And she might say, well, you shouldn't. Okay, well, then those of us who want to talk about it and have things to say about it are going to talk about it over here. Because we don't embrace your skepticism. Because that doesn't allow us to make meaningful conversation with each other. If for no other reason. She didn't like that. I think her moral skepticism arguments had worked heretofore. Probably. Most importantly, what she didn't like is I think she felt like I embarrassed her on a couple of occasions. Now, I probably did, and I probably ought to regret that, and I probably will at some point. But at the same time, what I was trying to do, and there are some types on whom it just doesn't work at all, I was trying to set things straight once and for all kind of thing, like, okay, look, I've been very patient. You've gone back and forth on this thing. You keep being non-responsive. You just make new arguments. Every time I answer one of them, you don't even address the fact that what you just said was proved false. All this sort of stuff, debate stuff. And so, I made a video at some point saying, this is why you're wrong. Okay? You're wrong. You just need to accept that. It's ridiculous. It's okay. We're all wrong sometimes. I'm wrong. Everyone's wrong sometimes. I'm not wrong all the time. And the extent that I'm wrong less than people now, number one, it just seems like that because you don't seem to count when I concede that I'm wrong as being wrong. Because what you want to see is defeat. This is what Metasoap wanted to see. She wanted to see defeat me. She wanted to see me getting my comeuppance. She didn't want to hear me saying, I formally and officially concede that you are correct at this point. Now let's move on to the next thing. She wanted to see it sting me. Because losing a point, having to concede a point, stings her. It doesn't sting me, though. It doesn't sting me because it's just an argument. But there are individuals in the world who cannot engage in that kind of testing without becoming too emotionally involved in it. And Metasoap was one of them. She became extremely emotionally involved in it because she was careful for a while. She would get mad in GTM sessions. She'd type in a bunch of angry stuff. One of her biggest complaints was that when I was addressing her arguments, I didn't always address everything she said. Well, of course I didn't. It's all in text. I only read some of it. And I got a lot of things to do. I don't have time to sit there and research Metasoap's comments all day before I make a video about it. You might say, well, I have an obligation to do so. I might say, well, you have an obligation to be decent. It's like if you're just spitting bile, and it's obvious to me that you are not, you're not making legitimate objections to my points. You're not engaged in a legitimate discourse about anything. You are just trying your best to make me feel bad. Now, that's probably not going to succeed, but it doesn't mean I like it. And in this case, it did succeed ultimately. It provoked enough anger in me eventually. She provoked anger successfully that I made one video I regretted. The second video I took down. First video I took down because I regretted it. Because I said she was lying and hiding. It wasn't actually like anything in that video was untrue. I didn't slander anybody. I didn't libel anybody. I gave a very harsh interpretation of things. And a fair interpretation in a lot of ways. But motivated by anger, I didn't like it. I didn't like the way I came across. I didn't like the way I felt when I made it. I didn't like the way I felt when I watched it. So I put it on private. Metasoap freaked out and thought I was... I don't know. I haven't read all of her comments now. So who knows what she thought. But there was a barrage of comments. I indicated, I was like, look, I'm not going to be interacting with you anymore because... Not for a while anyway, because, it makes me feel bad. And at the end of my last comment, I said, I just said, I don't feel like, I don't want to chill with Cool Hand Luke. I respect your fight. I absolutely respect it, but I don't want to chill with Cool Hand Luke. And really, that's what she had become at the end is the guy who just won't go down. He's not accomplishing anything when he's up. He's just standing there and getting hit again. Well, the guy doing the hitting, it's one way you can beat somebody. If you want to defeat me, Eric, you have to sink to level Z. I don't want to defeat you that badly. I'm not going to sink to level Z. I disengage. I leave the field of battle. And once I disengaged, ignored her comments for a couple of days, that was it. She was gone. So, she represents a chapter in Talking with Facebook People history. She represents... I know she's coming back. We'll see her again at some point. But, so does the So Malicious drama that happened in the fall. That was part of Talking with People history. I had a fair amount of drama. Fair amount of drama around here. I'm a little high drama. I'll admit it. Anyway, thanks for watching.